The chronological dating of our technological development and capabilities within antiquity are often correlated and judged upon the developments within heat management of metal refinery. For example, one of our strongest arguments against the modern-day attested view that ancient Egyptians were the builders of the Sphinx, the pyramids, the tombs, etc., is partly based upon their lack of ability in heating a furnace to a sufficient enough temperature to create the hardened metal tools needed to penetrate and carve such hard stones. The Nanjing Belt is an extremely rare find that has unsurprisingly vanished from public view, preventing any further analysis, although the existence of these artifacts was officially noted in several places and was indeed analyzed by several specialists. What is amazing regarding the Nanjing Belt is its age, but most importantly, what it is made of. In 1952, 2 tombs were found within Yixing City in China. One of the tombs also had a clear date inscribed upon its inside. It stated that they were buried on the 20th of September of the 7th year of Yuan Kang, the late general of Zhao, 1700 years ago. When the belt was initially retrieved, it was sent for analysis at the chemistry department of Nanjing University. The results were astonishing: 10% copper, 5% manganese, and the remaining was 85% pure aluminum. However, the development of aluminum is a very modern achievement, requiring extreme heats to smelt, heats that we believe were impossible to manage at the time. Alumina is dissolved in molten cryolite at 1000 degrees C, with a melting point of pure alumina being 2054 degrees Celsius. So, the question persists: how could such an artifact exist? A question once taken up in the West by 3 scholars, Butler, Glidewell, and Pritchard, at St. Andrews University. The abstract sums up their work, quote, "Pieces of aluminum, supposedly parts of a set of belt ornaments, were found in a Jing Dynasty tomb during excavations in the 1950s. The authenticity of these finds was questioned at the time in view of the technology required to isolate aluminum from its ore. Examination of the thermodynamic requirement for this process demonstrates unequivocally that the temperature required for this process is greatly in excess of that possible with Jing Dynasty technology, and so the finds cannot be authentic." Unfortunately, again, we find ourselves in familiar waters. So-called scholars, 3 in fact, with a conclusion based solely upon historical assumptions. Unfortunately, the artifact was seemingly too controversial for some, and it has disappeared, sadly, quite possibly forever.
Beit Sherim is an ancient cemetery located within Galilee. Very close by is a natural cave. It had apparently fallen into disuse at the end of the 4th century and filled up partially with 4 or 5 feet of clay-like silt. In 1956, a bulldozer was taken in to clear the rubble, but what it would uncover can be seen as an enormous OOPART, an out-of-place artifact. It turned out to be a large ancient rectangular slab made from an unknown material. Because of its size, measuring 6.5 by 11 feet long, 18 inches thick and weighing in at over 9 tons, it was not surprisingly left where it lay. With a perfectly level surface, its origins were a mystery, yet alas, at the time, not a pressing one. However, in 1963, members of a joint expedition of the Corning Museum of Glass and the University of Missouri would bring to light a curious reality. While surveying the region for possible remains of ancient glass factories, someone suggested that the Beit Sherim slab might have been made of glass. A suggestion initially perceived as a joke. Amazingly, chemical analysis was indeed carried out, confirming that this enormous and extremely ancient slab was indeed made of glass. It is therefore believed that the Beit Sherim slab is a huge piece of first-stage glass, meant to have been broken up and fashioned into objects somewhere else, that for some reason was abandoned right where it was made. In conclusion, several factors surrounding the existence of the slab are currently unexplainable. According to mainstream views surrounding the evolution of glassmaking, The production of such an enormous base material would have been simply impossible, requiring over 12 tons of raw materials, over 20 tons of furnace fuel, the maintaining of a temperature of over 1100 degrees centigrade for no less than 5 continuous days, finally producing a 9-ton slab of perfectly level, perfectly rectangular glass, clearly demonstrates the requirement of a highly advanced refinery with highly advanced technologies harnessed by a past civilization. Additionally, at the time of its discovery, only 2 other pieces of glass have ever been created that are larger. Both rest within the enormous telescopic mirrors of machines developed within the past century. It seems clear to us that the Beth Sherim slab is one of those rare gems that clearly demonstrates the past existence of a highly advanced, highly capable ancient civilization that once lived and was unfortunately lost here on Earth.
We have come to a point in the age of our civilization, thanks to the efforts of countless individuals who, in the pursuit of truth, specifically the reality of a lost past, a lost civilization once possessing now lost technologies, has finally arrived on the main stage of debate. It has come to a point of critical mass, either having been made aware of their existence, or indeed realizing or stumbling upon this hidden truth independently. Regardless, we have uncovered an immense array of proof to not only confirm their existence, but a proof now all but overwhelming to argue with. The entire planet, literally littered with impossible remnants, left by what we believe was not only one, but part of an array of lost civilizations, several of which being past global superpowers. Yet I digress. The artifacts found throughout Giza, for example, demonstrate a seemingly impossible ability to move and carve stones with the tools mainstream academics would put in the builder's hands, making such creations impossible. There exists within the museum's archives themselves a smorgasbord of vases and stone cores, lay for all to see. Each suggest that they were not only the result of some form of advanced lathe work, but other far superior and powerful tools far ahead of that of the copper chisel, which to claim was the culprit, we feel is now nothing more than an offense to one's intelligence, when the evidence to suggest otherwise is in front of one's face at the same time. We have previously covered the vases supposedly made using nothing but copper in the past, specifically the tri-lobe disc. Yet the many other members of the collection, known as the Saqqara vases, not only demonstrate a mastery of lathe work, but some are so impossibly delicate that when attempted to be explained with modern paradigm, one is left utterly baffled. What lost technologies or techniques were used in the creation of these vases? Article 99 from the Anorthosite Nice catalog, but one example of this extraordinary ability to either cut or possibly mold these stone vases, with wafer-thin edges and a shape formed with the lip, demonstrating they would be impossible to recreate even with the advanced technology of a lathe. Who made these seemingly impossible artifacts, along with the unmissable Great Pyramids, highly compelling? Ancient OOPARTs. A section of ancient history which many find as their preference, it is undeniably one of the strongest areas of argument within the study of antiquities, which is in support of the past existence of once highly capable, incredibly technologically advanced, yet now lost ancient civilizations. The ancient astronaut theory being one main topic of interest within the OOPART's realm. When it comes to certain current or now past allies, in alliance with our so often reiterated posit of the existence and the volumes of surviving evidence in support of a now lost, often also claimed now actively hidden, enormous number of chapters of human history. It is thanks to their laborious collaborative efforts which has allowed us to accomplish such a strong and compelling evidence. In addition, the realization that much of these sites and anomalous features also display a strong evidential suggestion that many of these civilizations somehow succumbed suddenly, possibly to a past cataclysm. However, If this vast and still growing file of evidence, all suggesting sudden demise, is, in the future, somehow found to have been an undeniable reality, possibly a repeated event, a question arises: who could these claimed ancient astronauts possibly have been? The evidence suggesting sudden halts in undertaking within countless elaborately created, by clearly highly resourced people, megalithic quarries, which were inexplicably abandoned, litter our planet. This may suggest that these OOPARTs are either of returning, unfortunate witnesses to this cataclysm, somehow returning many generations later, successfully making contact with a civilization raised from the ashes of their now forgotten world, somehow surviving all this time in an ancient spacecraft, possibly better, possibly similar to our own modern space stations, absent long enough to be depicted by a people presumably astonished by their existence. Secondly, they could quite possibly depict ancient alien visitors to our planet, either once deliberately making contact or once crashing here, forcing these entities to make contact, thus witnessed. Yet, if true, their likeness to Earthlings is a controversial consequence to said history. Or are all somehow a mere coincidence? One or two hoaxes, we feel, is a real reality, but for all these magnificent, enigmatic, and often clear depictions of similarly looking individuals all being hoaxes? Yet so far separated geographically, we find unlikely. One must keep this in mind when studying such artifacts, such as the Istanbul rocket, the claimed ancient space module which became one of the most popular artifacts of the Istanbul Archaeological Museum. Sought after by Western scientists and media alike, pored over and written about in hundreds of articles across Europe, even featuring on television programs and within many newspaper articles. However, what is fascinating about this reality that for many years, many specialists, often talented people, also just as often funded to presumably determine an inaccuracy in the object's claimed age, did not. Not until a few years ago, that is. In the last few years, it has been that the Istanbul rocket was apparently found to have been a hoax, a plaster cast made some 25 years ago, a puzzling claim when one remembers that just 5 years after, the space module was sought after by German and English, among many other national archaeologists, and was, for a long time, secured in the preservation unit of the museum. Was this really a plaster cast, a mere 5 years old when this discovery was announced, successfully fooling the world's scientific communities? Or was it like so many other artifacts we study, successfully stolen, then replaced with a clear fake? We will leave that up to you to decide from the evidence available. But an argument for found crash craft can also be seen in the inspiration for the creation of things, like that of the lid of Pakal's tomb. An enigmatic depiction of this same form of technology, again, turns up all over South America, and even further afield. The Kiev spaceman, yet another found far away in the remote, desolate landscapes of Ukraine. Clearly, a depiction of a gas-breathing humanoid-shaped being, depicted with seemingly no injuries, yet the reason for said depiction is an ongoing debate, yet due to its clear characteristics, a welcome member of this long list of ancient OOPARTs. Ancient astronauts? Or merely an extremely elaborate, highly complex, hard-worked, long-lived hoax? We find the evidence to support the theory highly compelling. Throughout the world, many ancient sites have produced perplexing ancient stone carvings of hugely varying size. Some of the ancient relics found are of a perfect sphere, while others feature extremely detailed and as yet unexplained carvings, completed with as yet unknown methods or technology. The largest amongst this perplexing group of artifacts are undoubtedly the land pearls. Some of the most impressive are to be found within Costa Rica. Perfectly spherical stones, which, although claimed to be natural, are clearly highly perplexing ancient objects. Parallel to the land pearls, are the many tiny artifacts that have been unearthed at many different sites around the globe. The Klerksdorp spheres, for example, found upon the African continent, are typically found to be ranging in diameter from 0.5 to 10 centimeters. These stones also vary widely in shape, from flattened spheres to well-defined discs. Petrographic and X-ray diffraction analysis of specimens found that they consist either of hematite or wollastonite, and all of the specimens which were cut open exhibited an extremely well-defined radial structure, terminating at the center of the Klerksdorp sphere. Some of these objects exhibit well-defined and parallel longitudinal grooves or ridges, which many have claimed are artificial additions. These artifacts have been dated at an astonishing 3 billion years old. Additionally, some of the other more perplexing ancient carved stone balls, now known as petrospheres, have also been found in Scotland and England. They range from having no ornamentation to extensive and highly varied complex patterns. A wide range of theories have been produced to explain their use or significance, although their true purpose remains a mystery. Yet thanks to the complex designs added to these Scottish petrospheres, they are undeniably man-made, and as such, predictably, they have only been dated to a mere 5,000 years old. Many of the stones have unfortunately never had their discovery site recorded, and most are found as a result of agricultural activity. 5 found at Skara Brae village, and 1 at the Dunnet Hill Fort, yet other noted sites remain elusive. Interestingly, the distribution of the stones is similar to that of mace heads, weapons, and prestige objects that were often used in ceremonial situations. They are undoubtedly highly compelling.